the MMA fortune teller.
The teller. The teller. The teller. The teller. The teller.
The teller is back once again, coming off another profitable weekend. You guys saw the video, Teller's Tale of the Tape, did a whole breakdown on the fight. Arman Tsarukyan came in through clutch against Olivier Aubin-Mercier. The fight took place just as I told you it would. Arman would be the superior grappler. He would be younger, fresher, more hungry. OAM was a hype job. I called it. If you guys don't believe me, if you didn't see the video, go back, check it out again. I told you guys what was going to happen. 30-27, Arman went in there and did work. One judge gave it 29-28, and that's just, how the judging system goes. The fight's taking place in Canada, and the judging system it really needs to be cleaned up. That's still another major issue, but for another day, we'll talk about that another time, because right now I want to talk about how I went 2 for 2 on my plays, which one of them, like I said, Arman Tsarukyan, 6.5 unit play, third party tracked. Made a bunch of people money. The guys that are rolling with me, you guys all made money with me. The people that purchased my pick. And for those of you that didn't even purchase my official pick, man, I'm out here making the video hinting at what my picks are anyway, because I want to spread the wealth to all you guys. I understand not everyone can break the bank. But again, my picks are affordable, and I'm always giving out free picks here and there too. So other than that, how about the 2-fight parlay that was easy money sitting on the table? Max Blessed Holloway parlayed with Chris Cyborg Santos. For you guys, all you other cappers that are too snooty or that are overthinking the game, you guys want to leave money on the table like that? Go ahead, be my guest, leave money on the table like that, because I'm not. I'm going to pick it up. And excuse me, I said 2 for 2, but officially I guess it would be 2.5 for 2.5 on the night, because I had another parlay as well, John Jones and Max Holloway. Holloway did finish that parlay as well. So just another perfect night, man, just cleaning up. For those of you guys that think it's too good to be true, please stay up to date with the teller. Follow my picks. Go check the links. Keep track of all my plays. Do your research. Do your homework on me. I'm telling you. Don't get me wrong. I know the game consists of up and downs, and obviously right now I'm definitely on a major up, and I understand it can't continuously just always be perfect, but right now things are fucking moving nice, man. They're just flowing, and I'm making a ridiculous amount of money right now. So besides helping you guys make money, I'm making a bunch of money, and I'm happy, man. Things are great. And like I said, the card was great, man. Max Holloway looked amazing. One of the judges actually scored it 48-47, which was a complete joke. I get it. Hats off to Frankie, true legend of the game. But realistically, he didn't win one of those rounds. I can understand maybe one of them was somewhat close, if you want to do 49-46, but still, man, it's just like I was talking about the judging system earlier. It really needs to be cleaned up, so that was a little sad to see too. And one thing I definitely want to touch up on, let's get into this fight, man. Gavin Tucker versus Sungwoo Choi. I was on Gavin Tucker from the very beginning. That was my pick no matter what. As far as if I was going to make it one of my official plays or not, I ended up not doing that, which I kind of regret. I wish I would have put that on the third-party tracking system so other people could have played it more as well. But the people that DM me on Instagram that asked about the fight definitely gave you my thoughts. I clearly said Tucker was easily the pick. And right before the fight started, the line got even better and better and better. I threw a little bit of money on it myself, made a little bit of money, nothing major. But the point I'm getting at is that this guy Sungwoo Choi, for those of you guys that are familiar with this new guy, Yanni the Greek, the UFC is trying to push him as like the official UFC's mixed martial art type guy, right? This guy, fake white teeth, fucking black dyed hair, fake tan, the whole bit, man. And the guy's Greek too. It's kind of hard for me to hate on another Greek because I'm Greek myself. But fuck this, man. I'm going to call it out for what it is. This guy, I don't want to throw too much shade on him because I don't know him on a personal level, but he thinks he's coming into the game right now. He's on these UFC shows and whatnot. The guy is an ex-bookmaker, which means this guy was basically he's, you know what kind of guys you're dealing with when it comes to bookmakers. And now he's trying to step into the other side. He's trying to act like he knows the game of mixed martial arts. And he's trying to act like he's going to start making money giving picks out and whatnot, which he's trying to do his little thing. But look at the picks he's given out. His big pick of this fight card, this past fight card, UFC 240, was Sungwoo Choi. And it's disgusting because he has a major platform. He single-handedly influenced that line, which was disgusting to see. You know, he cost so many people money. He even influenced other big MMA cappers in the game, guys that you know, that you're familiar with here on the YouTube scene. So you guys know exactly who I'm talking about. That was their big play, Seung-Woo Choi, which in my opinion, these people are getting lazy and they're just putting their finger on a piece of paper, just moving it around and just picking random names and just going with a pick because they're lazy. They don't want to put the time in on fight tape, because if anybody would have put time on both these fighters and watch the tape, how in the fuck are you picking Seung-Woo Choi, a guy that got demolished in his UFC debut, a guy that has barely any mixed martial arts professional fights? He was 7-2 at the time, and he's fighting on the local Asian scene, Korean fighter, hasn't beat anybody. And then you got a guy in Gavin Tucker that's already dismantled a guy like Sam Cecilia in his UFC debut. Guy, you know, he had a lot of promise, and then he fell off. He lost one fight against a true crafty veteran, Rich the Gladiator Glenn, who's been around the block, a solid fighter, and he caught Tucker, and Tucker was out on his feet for the rest of the fight. And ever since then, people are thinking that Tucker is a scrub. I don't know, man. So that irked me, because I know a lot of people lost money on that fight, and you know, I don't like that. I want all you guys to clean out these bookies. I want you guys to make money, and I'm not in that business, man, of seeing you guys lose. So you guys know what I bring to the table. So shame on that guy, Yanni the Greek, for throwing out these horrible picks. I mean, all the picks he's been throwing out, man, everything I've seen so far since he's been on the scene, all losing picks. It's a complete joke. Where's this guy's track record? Now, obviously, he's putting them out there, so if you want to do your own homework, you can keep track of his picks and look at all his losses. But it's a joke. And shame on all the big-time cappers that just followed this guy's insight, which obviously he didn't even have any insight. Whatever, he just following his idea. Complete trash. All right, so that will end the rant. We'll start moving our way forward to UFC ESPN 5. Got a hell of a main event. Colby Covington taking on Robbie Lawler. Other than that, the card is not the most polished up card. It's not the biggest of names, but you know how it goes. Any of these cards, there could be a big money play. Like I definitely have one on this card already at great value. And any of these fights can be exciting. So nevertheless, before we move on to the official fight card, if you guys can, please pause the video, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. Let's get this channel out there, man. We got to help all these people that are making bets on mixed martial arts fights. We have to help get the knowledge out there so people are making money, people are enjoying life. It's a sad scene to see some of these people that are buying picks from these losers that are giving complete trash picks, or following advice of these guys on YouTube that are just giving out trash picks, man. They're not putting in the time. They're not fucking doing their due diligence, and I don't really like it. Normally I don't rant like that, but I really been hearing from it from a lot of you guys, telling me that you played this because this guy told you, or this and that. And I'm like, dude, follow what I'm telling you. DM me. I'm willing to give insight. Yeah, I sell some of my picks. I give a lot of free picks out. But nevertheless, if you ask me your take on the fight, I'm gonna help steer you guys the right way, and I'm gonna do what I can to make sure each and every one of you guys are profiting long term, because for the most part, all you guys that I talk to out here, man, you guys are all super cool. You guys are fight fans. We're all part of the same community. So I'm going to look out like that. And yeah, man, just if you guys can, please subscribe to the channel. Help me get my name out there and help me grow my channel. Thank you, guys. I appreciate you. And now that we got that whole rant out the way, we can start breaking down these fights. And like I said, not the biggest of names all throughout the card, but there's a couple fights here and there I'm looking forward to. And we'll start right with the first fight of the night. I'm looking forward to seeing this fight for sure. Hannah Goldy. She likes to go by Queen of Sparta. I guess that's her new little nickname. She's undefeated, doesn't have a lot of professional fights, but she's taking on another undefeated fighter, Miranda Granger, who's 4-0, all finishes, 3 submissions, 1 TKO. Has looked, pretty decent from the tape I've seen, but I'm on this girl, Hannah Goldy. It's funny, too, because the line started about minus 140, 150 or whatnot, blew up to about minus 200, and it came back down. So in my eyes, it's a playable fight, again, now that it's in reach, minus 150, 140. Hannah Goldy, this girl looks good. Her first fight on Dana White's Contender Series, very, very strong, muscular chick, can stuff the takedown. And then her striking it's very... I don't want to say polished, but it's technical. She keeps her arms nice and tight in. She has power in her hands. Doesn't let them go as much as I would like to see, at least from the limited amount of tape I've seen. but she has a very nice power kick. Throws a very nice power kick to the body, likes to continuously circle around the cage and whip that kick around, and it looks good for the judges. So, if the fight's going to decision with her, she's going to look to win a lot of those fights because it looks very good. She has good footwork. She's going to continue to circle around and keep throwing that power kick. Like I said, though, I want to see her let her hands go more. I think this girl has a lot of potential. And in her limited amount of fights, she's 2-0, but don't get it twisted. She's already fought, good talent. She's already beat Jillian Robertson in her debut. Jillian Robertson, the Savage. You saw her again, this past weekend? Looked very good. I called that fight as well. Jillian Robertson, putting in work at American Top Team, young fighter, definitely has a lot of potential. So Hannah Goldy, went out there, beat her in her debut. It's a big statement. Then goes out in the Dana White's Contender Series and defeats Callie Robbins, who is no slouch really when it comes to the strawweight women's division as well. So this girl, Hannah Goldy, like I said, has a lot of promise. A little background on her. She is the baby's mother of Alex Nicholson. Alex Nicholson, fucking cool-ass fighter. I met him a few times. He's a savage himself, fighting over there in the World Series of Fighting. Actually, I guess, I'm sorry about that. It's called the Professional Fight League now. They changed the name. But he's been putting in work. He came off a split decision loss in his last fight, but before that, throwing flying knees. Dude's, he's a savage in there. So, Hannah Goldy is the baby mama of him. So, she's hanging out with these fighters, man. She's on the fighting scene over there around the Orlando area. And I think this girl has a lot of potential. She is, one asterisk that she has, an X factor. This girl is, she's strong, man. She's physically strong. She's a specimen. Not a lot of these girls that step in the octagon have the type of body that she does. So she's going to be able to get away with certain things she's going to be able to pull off certain things that other female fighters just won't be able to do. So, like I said, I like this girl. I want to keep seeing her polish up her game. And I think this girl is going to be, wreaking some havoc in the women's division, strawweight division. Then we got her opponent, Miranda Granger. This girl 4-0, like I said, all finishes. I like what I saw from her as well. She's been handling business in there. She also fought in Dana White's Contender Series, and she made quick work of Jamie Colleen. So, actually, she was one-on-one on the show, too. She's fought twice in Dana White's Contender Series. So, but from what I've seen from her, I get it. She's game. She brings something to the table, but she's a typical women's fighter. She's a little bit flimsy in there, and I think that Hannah Goldy will, be stronger in the clinch. She'll be able to look better in those positions if they're leaning against the cage or whatnot. Goldy, I think, will be able to stuff the takedowns, and I think she'll style on her in the feet. She's very intelligent on the feet. I think she'll circle and she'll look better and she'll win a decision in her official UFC debut. So yeah, my pick is Hannah Goldy, and keep an eye out if it's a possible play because, like I said, it's in reach as far as what I'm seeing right now where the line is at. Up next, we have at least in my opinion, the very much underrated fighter in Claudio Henrique da Silva, taking on Cole Williams, who's taking this fight on short notice. Cole Williams, a little bit up there in age, 35 years old. He's 11-1. But let me get back to Claudio Henrique da Silva for a second. He's 36 years old. He's up there in age as well. The reason why I say he's an underrated fighter, this guy has gone in there and handled everyone that's been thrown at him. He's 13-1. The one loss that he had was not a legit loss. It was a disqualification. So you can scratch that. It was pretty much one of the first fights he's had in his professional career. So scratch that fight. Other than that, he's basically 13-0. He's beat notable guys too, man. Danny Roberts, he pulled off a nasty submission. I believe that was his last fight. Defeated guys like Nordine Taleb, who's a true veteran of the game, solid fighter, a gladiator. He's went to decision and beat Leon Edwards. You guys know the deal with Leon Edwards. Leon Edwards is, the top prospect. Not even a prospect, the top contender to fight for the belt. So, this guy, Claudio Henrique da Silva, has beat guys like that. And before he took this fight against Cole Williams, because his opponent pulled out of his fight because he was scared, Ramazan Amiv, that guy, the line was crazy on that fight. Claudio Henrique da Silva, I had a play already placed in on that fight. I got him at plus 230. That's ridiculous. Claudio Henrique da Silva, how is he a plus 230 against Amiv? That guy Amiv, yeah, he's showing some promise too, but this guy Claudio is the real deal. At the very least bit, maybe a slight edge to Amiv, but I had that fight at least to pick him. If not, I favored him to win the fight. So The guy has a crazy jiu-jitsu game. His striking is getting better, but he has that X factor. He's one of those jiu-jitsu guys that he goes in there, he's athletic, and he's ballsy. He's going to go in there, he's going to sling his hands, and he's not going to be scared to brawl it out with you. And then when you want to start brawling out and fighting, he's going to start pulling off his technical abilities with his jiu-jitsu game. Or he'll pull little tricks off his sleeve and he'll defeat you. That's what he does. When he steps into the cage, he wins. So just to speak some knowledge on that first bout that was canceled. Now you got this guy Cole Williams stepping in 11-1. It's pretty much a padded record. I looked into the guys that he's been beating. It's ridiculous. I mean, this guy beat Charlie Brown. You know what I mean? That's the guy he's been fighting. The guys like Charlie Brown. Obviously, you guys don't know who that is because no one knows who he is. Then he fights a guy, and this guy Kennedy has a record of 8-28. I mean, like, what is that? You know what I mean? What is that? So, I get it. He's been handling work with the guys that he's been put in there with, but and from what I've seen on tape, I just didn't see anything special. Gotta lean Claudio Henrique Silva. The line's crazy right now. It's in the -400s. But, if you were able to get it initially at -400 flat, there's no reason why you couldn't say that that's a possible leg for a parlay. I'm not going to say if it's one of mine. It's a little bit higher than -400 right now, and it's still possible a leg for a parlay because I think Claudio Henrique Silva will go in there. He'll handle work. I think he'll even get the submission. I think he'll make it an entertaining fight, and then he'll pull off a sub. So shout out to Claudio Henrique Silva. Up next, we got some more chicks throwing down. We got Romero Borella taking on Lauren Murphy. For those of you guys that are familiar with Lauren Murphy, she was the girl that had that beef with Eddie Alvarez on the Tough show. They didn't really get along in there. And, honestly, when you watch the show, Lauren Murphy seemed to be kind of a bitch. I don't want to judge because when it comes to those shows, it's kind of hard to tell who knows what was really going on and whatnot. But, Lauren Murphy, I bumped into her over here on the local scene in South Florida a couple of times. And, she was all dressed up, looking good, not necessarily looking like how she looks in the cage. And, I don't think even if she looks decent when she's dressed up, that's going to necessarily help her out as far as fighting any of the top women in the world. Here she's fighting this girl Romero Borella. I don't necessarily believe that Romero Borella is one of the best women in the world at this point in time, but has definitely shown some flashes to have some great abilities in there. And her debut, her jiu-jitsu game looked disgusting. She's putting in work at Top Team. That's beginning to be one of my sayings over here. People putting in work at Top Team because there's so many of them, and it truly carries weight. And like I said, this girl Borella has been putting in work at Top Team. Her UFC debut, she was just transitioning through her jiu-jitsu game like butter, just like a steak knife going through butter. Looked great in that fight. And, since then, she did have this setback. She had that loss to Caitlin Chookagian. But Chookagian's, in my opinion, is a very good fighter. I made money on her in her last fight. She's a very active striker, and she pulls off a lot of decision victories. Romero Borella came back, got a nice victory against Talia Santos. The girl Santos, she's known to be a decorated Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu practitioner, but it really hasn't been carrying over inside the UFC as far as Santos goes. So I don't know how much weight that victory really carries for Romero Borella. Because like I'm saying, Santos is just, I don't really know if she's even up to par at this point. Lauren Murphy, she's going to be tough, man. She's going to be a strong, tough women's fighter. She's up there in age. She's 36 years old. She's only won 2 of her last 7 fights. The one thing I'll give her, if you look at a lot of the females that she's lost to, they're all notable names. Sajara Eubanks, Nico Montano, Caitlin Chookagian also. So they have a similar opponent they both lost to. Liz Carmouche, Sarah McMahon. So like I'm saying, these are solid fighters. And Lauren Murphy, she's been around for a while. She's been fighting for a long time. She's a crafty veteran. So maybe let's not look too much into that. 2-7 in her last, or 2 of 7, winning 2 of her last 7 fights. Let's not look too much into that. But I'm still going to favor Romero Borella to win this fight. I just think, like I said, I've seen her when she's at her full potential, and I think she's more of a skilled fighter. And I think she's rounding off her game over at Top Team, and I think this is another opportunity for her to come in there, put a string off another victory, and keep her momentum rolling. So yeah, I'll take Romero Borella. It's a tongue twister over there. This little tanned Italian little sweetheart. Take her to win the fight. All right, up next we got Matt Danger Schnell taking on Jordan Espinosa. Matt Schnell, very young in the game. I like from what I've seen from him. This guy putting in work at American Top Team. He's over there at the factory, training with the best of them. Very young, so he's just completely just absorbing all that knowledge they're giving him over there. You could see that he's growing. He went on a 3-loss skid. He came back, puts 3 wins together. I like that. I like the way. I like his mental game. Even though he went on that 3-fight losing streak, you could tell every time he went back in there, he was expecting to win. He's a confident fighter, and now he's going to be dangerous. Coming off 3 wins in a row, and after the way he looked in his last fight against Luis Smoka, he's going to be very confident there. And I think a confident fighter is a dangerous fighter. Hence the nickname, Matt Danger Schnell, because this guy, I think this is a good spot for him. He's if you look at some of the guys he's lost to too, solid fighters. Rob Font, he got TKO'd by him. Rob Font is an absolute beast. Has a lot of power in his hands and can put a lot of guys away. He lost to Tim Elliott. Tim Elliott's a funky fighter in there, so that it's all right. And then you got this guy Jordan Espinosa. He's 14-5. So, he's lost a decent amount of fights, and if you look at the guys that he's lost to, really wasn't overly impressed with some of them. So don't get me wrong, as of recent, he's been putting it together as well. He's been stringing off a lot of wins. A lot of his losses were in the beginning of his career. He had a very nice TKO win on Dana White's Contender Series against Riley Durtro. He did beat Eric Shelton. Eric Shelton's a solid fighter as well. So Jordan Espinosa is the typical, very well-rounded fighter. And like I said, it's a close fight. But just on the confidence level, I think that Matt Schnell is going to come in here, and I think he's going to try to dominate the cage. I think he's going to come in here expecting to win, and I think Jordan Espinosa is going to fall in line with that. But again, this is more of a gut feeling. It's a close fight, not necessarily a fight that I'm targeting to make money on as of right now. It could possibly be. But Matt Schnell, keep an eye on this guy. Like I said, young. He's going to keep on growing, keep polishing the skills. His frame is going to fill up too. As he begins to get older, he's going to fill into his frame. I want to see him put a little bit of muscle on his frame, thicken up a little bit, and this guy could be a potential contender. So, yeah, Matt Schnell to pull this fight off. Maybe even get a finish. After the way he looked in his last fight, he might come out here and expect to get a finish. So, Matt Schnell to win this fight. All right, up next, I got an interesting one here for you guys, too. I'm looking forward to seeing this fight. Two, I don't want to say top prospects in regards to the female mixed martial arts scene, but they're up there. You know what I mean? They're interesting fighters to keep an eye on. There's one big difference between the two of them, though. Although they're somewhat of prospects, Antonina Shevchenko, she's 34 years old. This girl, Lucie Pudilova, however you want to pronounce that last name, Pudilova, she's 25 years old. So she's very young in the game. Very athletic girl, started off with a striking background and has been putting work in. She's 8-4, was completely robbed in her last fight, in my opinion, which was a very surprising thing to see because she was in her homeland as well. I could not believe that the judges robbed her of a fight in her homeland. It was very interesting. But it was against a solid fighter in Liz Carmouche, and Liz Carmouche was trying to hold her down in the ground and make it a boring fight. You know the deal with Liz Carmouche. She's very strong. She tries to bully some of these female fighters in there and hold them down and stuff. And, she snuck one off on Lucie. But I think that's going to motivate Lucie to get back in here and to pull off a victory against Antonina. Antonina, coming off a loss in her own right, she lost her last fight against Roxanne Modafferi, and I was not impressed at all. I mean, that fight was it was there for her on a silver platter, and she obviously didn't put enough work in her grappling because, I'm sorry, you just do not let Modafferi hold you down the way that she did and steal a fight from you like that. And I get it. Modafferi is a crafty veteran. But you saw Modafferi in her last fight against Jennifer Maia. Shout out to the teller, himself fucking capitalizing on that play. That was a huge play. Made a bunch of money, and I gave you guys that for free. Posted that on my Instagram. Great odds. Jennifer Maia at -130. Let me just harp on that for a second. But getting back to this fight, this is how I feel about it. Like I said, Antonina has shown some holes in her game as far as her grappling goes. But the thing is, I do believe Modafferi, as much shit as I talk about her, that is a skill that she has polished up a little bit better than Lucie has in this stage of the game. And the skill I'm talking about is making it a nasty grappling type of match, diving at girls' ankles, just trying to get that takedown, and then being top-heavy with her jiu-jitsu game. Lucie, on the other hand, like I said, very young, and her grappling seems to be growing fight to fight. It's nothing that that's that impressive. Her base is mostly striking, and I'm gonna favor Antonina to have the edge in the striking because everything I've seen from her on the feet is definitely above par. Very, very good Muay Thai. She's training with her sister, and her striking, okay, it's very, very good. But the thing is, Lucie is a good striker as well, so, it could play out close in the feet, when you're dealing with lighter women's mixed martial arts fighters. Sometimes the fights play out very close. But I'm going to edge Antonina to have the better striking on the feet. But the X factor would be if Lucie was continuously training her mixed martial arts game, being well-rounded, working on her grappling, and is going into this fight planning on trying to do the same game plan that Modafferi had and dive at Antonina's legs, get those takedowns, and hold her down for the entire round. All that being said, at the very end of the day, I have to pick one of these girls, and I think it's a very close fight. I think the value is probably on Lucie's side. If you can get her around plus 135, plus 140, that's great value, I think, because the fight's going to play out very close. But at the end of the day, I'm going to pick Antonina to win this fight. Her sister is one of the best women's mixed martial artists to ever do it in Valentina Shevchenko. Coming off a tough loss like Antonina just had, I'm assuming that she went back to the drawing board and was training very diligently with her sister, working on her grappling aspect, and I think maybe even polishing up the striking even more so, but her striking, it seems to be there already, so I'll pick Antonina to win this fight. Up next, I know the ladies are going crazy for this one. We got the ladies' man Micky Gall taking on Salim Touahri. The line is very close on this fight. Micky Gall is coming in as the underdog as of right now. You can get him at around a plus 110, plus 105. And this guy Salim, he had his UFC debut not too long ago. He's fought twice in the UFC, 2 losses, Warlley Alves and Keita Nakamura. I was not impressed whatsoever in each of those fights, especially the latter of the fights. That Keita Nakamura fight, Keita, I'm not so high on Keita. I mean, he's a crafty veteran, Japanese fighter. That was Salim's chance to really impress, and in my eyes, he really didn't. And it's just a little tricky fight to talk about because one of my good friends is a training partner of Salim over in Poland as well. So I've been talking with him. We just FaceTimed the other day, and he's been letting me know that Salim was getting some good training in. But you guys know, you know how I roll, man. I got to be straight up with you guys. I'm always 100% with you guys. I keep it real. And, just if it's a friend of a friend, I'm not going to bullshit here and say, oh, I'm impressed with this guy or watch out for this guy. I really haven't been so impressed with him. Warlley Alves, for sure, he's a solid fighter. So, you lose to him. Warlley Alves also beat Colby Covington. So, let's remember that, too. Alves, he's a very solid fighter. So, like I was saying, no real shame in that loss, but the Keita Nakamura fight, I don't know, man. Salim was supposed to step up and take that fight, and he was very hesitant. I don't like betting on fighters or taking fighters that are very hesitant and are not active inside the octagon. I do not like that whatsoever. Micky Gall, on the other hand, at least I'll give him this much. He steps into the cage and he expects to win, and he's going to keep walking forward. He's going to throw strikes. He's going to try to use his jiu-jitsu. He's going to try to grab that W. He's going to try to win the fight. So, only 27 years old. He's shown some promise. Coming off a pretty tough outing in his last fight against Diego Sanchez. Diego is really not going to go out there and beat too many more of these guys up. So, that L is kind of a tough one for Micky to hold because, he absolutely got just beat down by the old Diego Sanchez. So, that was a little bit of a red flag. I think that kind of exploited Micky Gall a little bit. Micky Gall, he's 27 years old. 5-2 record. Now he's lost to Diego Sanchez and Randy Brown. Randy Brown's legit. We saw that in Randy's last fight. He's a legit fighter. So no real shame in that. Just like I said, the Diego Sanchez loss, the way he got out-grappled, it's just a red flag. Other than that, his big win was against Sage Northcutt, and we know the deal with Sage Northcutt. He's a very flashy type of fighter that shows a lot of promise but has a lot of holes in his game, and Micky Gall was able to edge that fight. He dropped him a couple times, and then he circled around and he won the fight. Then that he beat CM Punk. That was a joke. He did beat George Sullivan, crafty veteran. That was one good note for Micky Gall. A good notch on his resume that he can beat a guy that's been around for a long time, a decent striker, pretty good jiu-jitsu, that is, in George Sullivan. So he had that little notch on his record. But, yeah, I'm going to take Micky Gall to win this fight. I'm going to take the dog again over here. I just think that, like I said, Salim is very inactive in there. I think Micky Gall, he's definitely going to want to step into the octagon and get a W after losing a couple fights here. And I think he'll be more active, and I think he's going to pull it out. It might be a close fight, but I got Micky Gall to win it. We got some big boys about to throw down in this fight, man. Darko Stosic taking on Kennedy and Nzechukwu, the Nigerian guy. However you want to pronounce that last name. These guys, both them coming off losses, but both these guys, there's been some hype behind both them. Very physically imposing type of fighters. Darko a little bit on the shorter side, but very stout, jacked up. When he goes in with his strikes, he goes and bursts, so he can explode with his striking. Kennedy, he has that very active, long range. He has a very good reach, and he's athletic, good foot movement. Didn't look so good in his last fight, though. He's 6-1. He took his first loss in his last fight against Paul Craig. It was a fight that he was winning, but he was flirting with danger the entire fight. Didn't show to have the best fighter IQ. Didn't show to have the best cardio as well. And ended up getting caught in a pretty elementary leg triangle. Got wrapped up and got choked out. But, we all know what Paul Craig's deal is. That's what the guy does. He's a submission master. He is good at submitting guys, especially in that division. And but you would like to see a guy like Kennedy with the hype he had go in there and finish Craig early, or if not, just play it safe and just easily win a decision in that fight. And then you got a guy in Darko Stosic who's coming off his first UFC loss. I believe it was in his second fight in the UFC. After an amazing debut against Jeremy Kimball, goes in there and just starches him, just smashes him up. Shows some great potential. Then in his second fight, you saw that he has a little bit of issues with his cardio. He was looking a little lazy in there. He's very strong in the clinch, has a very good judo game. He can hold guys against the cage. I would like to see him lose a little bit of that muscle mass and start to work on his cardio, because he has the power, he has the explosion already. Just work on the cardio a little bit. In his last fight, he faced Devin Clark, and that was his fight to win. I still had him winning that fight. It was very, very close. Could have gone either way, but I think Darko's the guy that he left that fight in there. He had more in him, whether it was the cardio, like I said, or whatnot. But when they were really going at it and they were in the clinch, Darko was the one that showed to be stronger. He was the one that showed to be more skilled in there, and he got lazy. So that is a little bit of a red flag, but I'm going to take Darko to win this fight straight up. I'm telling you guys right now, I like this guy Darko. I think this loss will help him light a fire under his ass, and I think he'll work on the cardio a little bit. And this guy Kennedy, like I said, he's a little, I see some red flags with this guy. He's just a little flaky, a little fugazi, and I think he has some holes in his game. He's a little, lanky, a little bit uncoordinated. I could see Darko connecting on him the same way he did to Kimball. Wouldn't be surprised if he fucking jacks him up. So I like this guy Darko Stosic, and the line, minus 135. So keep an eye on this fight. We're going to see fireworks. I think one way or another it's going to might be an early night. If Kennedy wins the fight, it might not so much be early. Might get him in the later rounds, but I got Darko winning this fight straight up. Up next, we got a guy that I'm kind of a fan of. I think this guy has been flying under the radar for quite some time. Scott Hot Sauce Holtzman, taking on Dong Hung Mong. I call him the Maestro. Dong Hung Ma, whatever you want to call him, the Korean. This guy, it's really not worth me putting too much time in remembering his name, because he's going to be out of the UFC here very soon. And Scott Holtzman, back to him. This guy, I'm impressed with him. Very strong, very physically imposing fighter. He has wins over guys like Alan Patrick Alves, who's a pretty solid fighter. And if you look at the guys that he's lost to, it's been solid fighters. Drew Dober, Josh Emmett. Scott Holtzman's a very strong guy. He mixes it well together. Good cardio, very tough guy. He's going to be stepping forward, coming to take your head off. And, when I say he's an underrated fighter, I just mean his name doesn't carry that much weight. But, if you look at the line, of course, the wise guys, they got the line right on cue, because he's a heavy favorite here. And I think rightfully so, because he's going to win this fight. This is definitely something you could put in a parlay. I don't see any problem with putting this in a two-leg parlay. If you want to, you need to make some money, you need some help with the rent or whatnot, this is the fight you want to do it. If you want to put $500 and win $250, whatever, parlay him with something else, take that $250. If you got the other leg, make sure if you have another solid leg like this, because Scott Holtzman will win this fight. I'm telling you guys right now. This guy Maestro, I'm not a fan of him. Coming off a TKO loss to Devontae Smith, who, Smith, that guy has a lot of power, but that takes a toll, man, getting smashed like that in your face. And I don't know, man. The guys that he's beat, just not really big names. Brandon O'Reilly, a guy that never made it in the UFC, one and done type of guy. Takanori Gomi, who literally could not win a fight. Anyone could beat him, probably even BJ Penn at this stage in the game. He's lost, and this guy, he's lost to guys like Dominic Steele, nonstop, action-packed Dominic Steele. I'm sorry, these guys are just not on the level. They're certainly not, these guys he's already lost to, Marco Polo Reyes, Dominic Steele. These guys are not even close to the level of Scott Holtzman. And I'm telling you, I know MMA math doesn't always pan out, but in this case it will. And Scott Holtzman, you can just tell he's just a way better fighter. And if you watch the tape, you'll see it in multitude of different ways. So Scott Holtzman will go in there, maybe get a knockout finish, or just... maybe some ground and pound, smash him up, or just win the decision, but he'll win this fight. Up next, we got Gerald Meerschaert taking on Trevin Giles. This guy Giles, there was a lot of hype going behind him before his last fight, but then he got a little setback against Zach Cummings. But, that's what Zach Cummings will do to you. Zach Cummings, a crafty, underrated fighter. He'll shut that shit up, man. You think you got a bunch of hype going behind you. Try stepping in there with an older veteran that's polished up, has striking, grappling, everything. And Zach Cummings cracked him with a couple shots, wobbled him, did his thing in there. I still think this guy, Trevin Giles, has a lot of potential. 26 years old. He looked good before that fight. He's been finishing a lot of guys. This guy has a lot of potential. And now he's going to step in there and fight a guy in Gerald Meerschaert. This guy reminds me a lot of like a pet Paul Craig type of fighter. We talked about him a little bit earlier. Gerald Meerschaert training over at Rufus Sport. He has the jiu-jitsu game for sure. Striking is a little bit iffy. Cardio is a little bit iffy. But I think he's an underrated fighter, and he could be dangerous at times. If you look at the guys that he's lost to, top-of-the-line type of guys in the division. Thiago Santos, Jack Hermanson, those are solid guys. And he's beat solid fighters too. Oscar Piota, I think his name is. That guy's a solid dude, the Polish fighter. I was high on him, and Gerald Meerschaert shut that hype train down too. So, you got to keep an eye on that. Will Gerald come in here and shut Trevin's hype down once again? I'm not necessarily sure that's what we're going to see. This is a type of fight, I don't really want any action on it, but, there is a red flag with Gerald Meerschaert in his fight against Kevin Holland. I didn't necessarily like how he looked in that fight. So that was one little red flag, but let's just stay tuned and see what happens with that fight. Might be one of the fights I take a smoke break on, so... I'll take Trevin Giles, though. All right, we're sliding right through the main card. Up next, we got Joaquim Neto BJJ Silva taking on Nasrat Hakparast. Nasrat, this guy has a lot of hype behind him. Training at TriStar Gym, only 23 years old. The fight that really put him on the map, in my opinion, was the Mark Diakase fight. At the time, Mark Diakase was one of the top prospects coming out, and Nasrat shut that shit down. Diakase tried to get in his head at the weigh-ins. Diakase was a beast at the time. Like I said, just really fell off ever since that too. But Nasrat was the one that completely took that train off the tracks. I get it. I see why Nasrat has the hype ever since, because he's a very well-rounded fighter. He has good striking. He's extremely tough. He's going to get in these guys' faces. He's not going to give them any space. Has good grappling. Has good cardio. Fights very much like Kevin Gastelum, which is funny because they look alike. You hear that shit all the time. These guys are doppelgangers, but at the same time, they actually fight very similarly too. So, and then you got Joaquim Silva. This guy's dangerous. You saw what he did in his last fight against Jared Gordon. It was nasty. He buzzsawed through a guy that buzzsaws through everyone else. So, and that was a fight that was very similar to Nasrat against Diakase in the fact that there was a lot of hype with Jared Gordon as well, and Joaquim was the underdog, and he came in here and he shut that shit down. So, these guys have similar type of backstories going into this fight. But the line is it's high on Nasrat. He's a heavy favorite here. He's in the minus 200s, and I understand why. I get it. I was breaking down the tape, and I do have him being the better fighter. I think he has more avenues to win this fight. But at the same time, this guy Silva is dangerous. So you got to be careful where you're putting your money. This guy Silva can finish the fight in a multitude of different ways. This guy can sub you. He can fucking TKO you. Or just completely put you to sleep flat out. Just straight up KO you. So he's a dangerous fighter. And then you got some red flags on Nazaret's part too. Losing to guys like Marcin Held. It's not a good look. Marcin Held, he's a specialist, a good grappler, but a guy like Nazaret should have won that fight. So that was a red flag, but I marked that up to the fact that Nazaret's very young. Like I said, only 23 years old. I think it was a learning experience. He charged it to the game. He's coming back a better fighter. And I think he's going to come in here and he's going to get the victory. But this is a fight that I'm not necessarily targeting betting-wise. It's a tricky line. I don't really like what I see from this fight. Like I said, Silva's a dangerous fighter, so I'll take a step back on that fight. We got the co-main event. We got some veterans scrapping it up here. Jim Miller taking on Clay Guida. It's a good matchup, I think we're going to see some fireworks here, and I think Jim Miller is going to style on this guy Guida. For those of you guys that are familiar, the teller is not fond of Clay Guida. I had an altercation with him some years back outside of the arena in Orlando. Tried to just take a picture with the dude, and he was just being a straight dick. So, it was a shame because I was a big Guida fan up until that point. I had some pretty cool experiences watching his fights. Saw the Diego Sanchez fight, locked up, which was crazy when it was on Spike TV. One of the crazy experiences I ever had. People just fucking jumping on top of tables, betting fucking milks and shit, going crazy. It was a crazy experience. And then, I wanted to go up, say what's up to the guy, tell him how much of a fan I was of the guy. Ends up being a complete asshole. So, those of you guys that don't know Clay Guida and don't know what he's about, because I know he has the cool look and he's exciting. He's always running around and shit. Trust me, the guy's a complete asshole. Take my word for it. So, I know it might not be what you want to hear, but it's the truth. So, and let alone, besides all that, Clay Guida sucks. As of recently, he really sucks. He almost just lost to BJ Penn. Goes out there, loses the first round in a fight that he should have just went out there and put him to sleep. And he fought horribly in that fight. He's 35 years old. He's 37 years old, getting up there in age, and I think you're starting to see it. And he's just not the most skilled guy. He tries to use his grittiness to pull fights off, and I don't think it's going to be enough against a guy like Jim Miller. Jim Miller, a black belt in BJJ, very good grappling. I saw Jim Miller fight live in his last fight against Jason Gonzalez. Once again, this guy proves just to be just a legend in his own right, May not be a Hall of Famer type of fighter, but he really is just a legend, man. Jim Miller's been around fighting the cream of the crop for years, and he's still up there, taking young guys out like Alex White, Jason Gonzalez, Thiago Alves. Although Alves isn't young, but still, taking these guys out. Beat Joe Lozon as of recently. And if you look at the guys that are beating him, we're talking about top tier type of fighters. Dustin Poirier, Anthony Pettis, Charles Oliveira, Dan Hooker, even Francisco Trinaldo, very solid fighter. By the way, Francisco Trinaldo got absolutely robbed in that last fight against Alexander Hernandez, one of the nastiest robberies I've ever seen. My condolences to Francisco. But, the point I'm making is Jim Miller, he loses to some of the top guys, and when he's fighting a mediocre guy, he goes out there and handles business, and you got to expect that to be the case in this fight. You have to expect that a guy like Clay Guida is going to get whooped up by a guy like Jim Miller. Jim Miller, strictly business. Clay Guida running around, jumping up and down at the weigh-ins, diving in on double legs is not going to be enough against a guy like Jim Miller. The only red flag is if, Jim Miller gasses out and Guida is able to weasel off the late rounds, which I don't see happening. Maybe he could weasel off the third, but I don't think Jim Miller will gas out by the second, so I don't think he'll be taken down and, decisions, held against the cage in that second round. And then there's the X factor. Jim Miller can fucking finish Clay Guida. Don't be surprised, man. This guy Guida's getting up there in age, and I don't know. He's been subbed, been knocked out as of recently. In his last 4 losses, he was finishing all of them. Subbed by Dennis Bermudez. Dennis Bermudez isn't really going out there and subbing guys. You fight a guy like Jim Miller. Jim Miller is a very crafty jiu-jitsu specialist. Don't get it twisted. So, Jim Miller's got this fight, and I hope he gets a sub. Puts Guida out. So, yeah, the pick Jim Miller to fucking put Guida on conscience. Let's get it. Oh, we got the main event of the evening up next. Colby, Chaos, Covington taking on Robbie, Ruthless, Lawler. You guys got to be pumped for this fight. I know the card's not the best, but come on. This main event right here, it's solid. There's even a rumor that the man himself, Donald Trump, is going to be at the event. I don't know if that's true or not. Love him or hate him, you gotta take it as a pretty exciting situation. Imagine having the president at a UFC event. I'm sure a lot of people are gonna be booing him. A lot of people will be cheering him or whatnot. Who knows? If he's there, I'm sure he'll be, or I know for 100% fact, he will be absolutely smothered by security. Not even security. We're talking special agents and all that shit. So that'd be interesting to see. Supposedly Colby's been talking to the family, and they're all going to come out to see him. And, supposedly Colby is the Trump's family, the first family's guy. Who knows the truth? It's hard to tell with Colby. He talks a lot of shit. Love him or hate him as well, man. I'll tell you one thing about Colby. This guy's pressure is relentless. This guy is the real deal. I'm telling you guys right now, this guy's the real deal. And he's going to beat a lot of guys. And I wouldn't be surprised if he holds the real belt somewhat soon. I know he has that fake belt, but I think he might hold the real belt somewhat soon. The pressure that I've seen this guy put, I've seen nobody put it like him. Kamaru Usman does do something very similar to him, but I think Colby has better cardio and better wrestling. I'm telling you guys, this guy is a fucking stud. Striking needs to be worked on, but that will all happen over time. Training at top team, this guy's polishing up all aspects of his game. Then you got Robbie Lawler. Robbie Lawler's coming off a loss, but look at that fight too, man. He looked like an absolute beast against Ben Askren. Slammed Askren on his head, was seconds away from finishing the fight. And then, got that bulldog choke. If you want to say he got choked out, or if you want to say it was an early stoppage, up to you. Either way, he shouldn't have been put in that situation, but regardless of how you want to look at that fight, you can't doubt the fact that Robbie looked like a complete stud in that fight. Just was chiseled up, looked to be in great shape. And if you think he was taking that fight serious, imagine how serious he's taking this fight. He knows Colby's talking that little bit of shit about him leaving American Top Team. He's stirring up the pot. Robbie don't like that shit. Trust me. Robbie keeps quiet and he tries to play it down, but he don't like that shit. He's a fucking beast, and he's going in there and he's going to try to decapitate Colby. I'm telling you, he's going to go for his head. And if he connects, it will happen. I'm telling you, he will put Colby out. But as far as betting on this fight goes, the value's probably on Robbie. Because, you can get Robbie at, good dog odds. Robbie's been known to stuff takedowns pretty good in the past. And if this fight takes place in the feet, you got to favor Robbie to outstrike Colby easily, possibly even finish him. The thing is, man, Colby Covington, as I talked about earlier, his grappling is relentless. And Robbie has shown to have bad cardio in certain fights. So, he's kind of faded a little bit. I know he was kind of injured in that Rafael Dos Anjos fight, but he kind of faded in the later rounds. And, that ain't going to work against a guy like Colby. Colby will be fucking double-legging him, taking him down against the cage, dropping elbows. It'll be nasty. Robbie will be covered in blood. He'll be getting smashed up, just hammer fists to the face, elbows, all that shit, I'm telling you. So, it's a 5-round fight, too. Don't get it twisted. This fight, it's going to go to the deep waters. You got to favor a guy like Colby in this spot. You got to favor a guy like Colby. And if you can get at the right line, if you can get it around minus 200 or less, you might want to jump on it. But it depends where this line's going to end up before the fight starts. Just take into consideration 5-round fight with a guy like Colby that, in my opinion, has the best gas tank in the game. Period. Point blank. So expect Colby to win this fight. I guess he's going to go high five Donald Trump out there, and then he's going to start calling out Marty fake newsman, and it's going to be some more shit talking. And then I think that fight's going to finally get put together, and it's going to be a very big fight. Like I said, if you like Colby or you don't like Colby, people are going to tune in to watch this guy either get knocked out, or you're going to root for him to smash guys up or get knocked out. Either way. So, but yeah, the pick is definitely Colby Covington, and I think he'll impress a lot of people once again with his tank. Guys that are going to be preying on his downfall are going to be, they're going to have to wait for that. It's going to be the right guy to step in there and take him out. Maybe it's Kamaru. So time will tell. So that pretty much wraps up UFC ESPN 5. Like I said, man, the main event is where it's at for sure. I know a lot of you guys are going to be tuning in to either see Colby get taken out or to see Colby make America great again. Whatever side of the fence you're on, it's going to be entertaining. 5-round fight. Robbie Lawler does not play around. So other than that, keep an eye on some of the, the undercard fights. Some of them might be entertaining, and there's definitely a spot to make some money. I'm telling you that. I got my one notch. Definitely going to make money this weekend. I got one fight. It's already locked in. You guys can check my Capper Tech. The bet was already placed. So, no questions about that for any of you fugazis that like to question my skills, because the bets are always dated and put in. So, got my one play. For those of you guys that are interested in that play, direct message me on Instagram or comment below for details how we can communicate, and we can work on getting that play to you guys. And yeah, you can go through my cap protect, but if you guys want a better deal, just hit me up. I'll give you guys a better deal. Willing to work with you guys. And yeah, other than that, I'm not going to rant too long because I know I did it up earlier in the video. Really went on a rant. And if you guys like that shit, let me know. If you guys like me going off on a tangent about some of these fake-ass cappers and all different types of things in the mixed martial arts game, let me know because I'll talk shit all fucking day for you guys. So it all depends what you guys want to hear. I can keep it professional, keep it classy. One thing, no matter whatever way I do it, I'll definitely be cashing in these bets one after another. So those of you guys that are riding with me, good for you guys. And, we'll continue to see that bank grow and grow and grow. For those of you guys that are not and you're hating, you guys are missing out. And keep watch what I do. Keep watching. You're going to see me consistently have a high percentage of wins and consistently grow unit upon unit every month. So, look at the damage I did already in this last month. It's ridiculous. I don't even know how many units I'm up this month. It's fucking ridiculous. So, all right, guys. I'm going to sign out over here and enjoy the fights. Shoot me a message, you guys. Always willing to bullshit with you guys. All right, signing out, the teller. The MMA fortune teller.
The teller. The teller. The teller. The teller. The teller.